Good afternoon. Hello and welcome to the 2022 Flagler County Legislative Delegation Meeting. Catherine, will you please call the roll? Here. We'll now stand for an invocation led by Representative Werner, and I will follow him with the pledge.
Thank you. Please join me in a word of prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for the opportunity to come and discuss the issues of the day, the issues important to Flagler County. We ask for your wisdom as we travel over to Tallahassee to make those important decisions, and we just appreciate everybody here that's come to have their voice heard and share their priorities with us today. And we ask for safety for our community and good things ahead for our community. In your name, amen.
We are going to move forward with our agenda. If anyone would like to address the delegation and have not yet submitted a speaker card, please fill out a card at the back table and return it to our staff over here on the side. Representative Werner, let's go ahead actually first and do introductions real fast, and then we'll move into the order that's in front of us.
All right. Well, I'm happy to have my legislative aide, Samantha Story, with us today. She's raising her hand back there. So if you need anything, we're in office space near ViStar off of Palm Coast Parkway. So, and get with her if you have any follow-on after today's meeting. But we're grateful to be here and look forward to a productive delegation meeting.
Thank you. Equally grateful to be here. I have my legislative aides, Matt Kaufman, Hunter Cleary, and Catherine Babcock, and we are actually directly either in front or behind Representative Werner, whichever way you tend to drive through that parking lot, but our offices are right next door to each other, so oftentimes when we're both here for office hours, we tag team the meetings if it's the same individuals that come to meet with us. That being said, let's move on to our first agenda item. That's Holly Albanese with Flagler County Board of County Commissioners. Good afternoon. You're first up.
Good. Okay. Good afternoon. Holly Albanese, Library Director, Legislative Liaison for Flagler County. I'm here today to speak on behalf of the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners and provide details about our 2022 legislative platform. What you have before you in the booklet provided are the 8 policy priorities and 2 funding requests for Flagler County. Today, I will highlight our top policy priority and our top funding request. For our top policy priority, we are asking for your support of the Public Library Construction Grant Program. Flagler County has now ranked #1 in the state 6 years in a row, simply because of need. These funds would allow us to provide the underserved portion of the county with expanded services. I know in the past there were some funding challenges which has delayed this project, but we are now moving forward. We are currently in the design process and will begin construction in the fall of 2022. As the library director, I made a promise to the residents to bring $1 million to the table. The library as a passport application acceptance facility has already provided $700,000. So these additional funds would allow us to meet the challenge and at the same time support the taxpayers of Flagler County. Our top funding request is asking for support of the Florida Agricultural Museum construction project. The Florida Ag Museum moved from Tallahassee to Flagler County in '97. While the museum has been successful preserving the state's agricultural heritage, it has had many financial challenges over the years. Through the Ag Museum is a 501c3, Flagler County, through a resolution, has committed to supporting this project and believe we now have a vision and a plan that will not only make this museum a museum we can all be proud of, but one that could be a major tourist destination. This plan is outlined in the proposal document I provided along with the legislative agenda. So how will we do that? Well, historically, museums of all types across the U.S. receive approximately 55 million visits from students and tourists each year. They support more than 726,000 jobs and contribute $50 billion to the U.S. economy. The Florida Ag Museum has the potential to become an economic driver for Flagler County in the state of Florida by tapping into millions of tourists coming to the area and thousands of students in the Flagler schools and those of the surrounding counties. Currently, according to Florida Department of Agriculture, Florida has more than 47,000 farms and ranches that bring in more than $7 billion each year. This museum represents all the farms, ranches, and farmers across the state. It transcends the borders of Flagler County, and this expansion plan, when completed, will be the only place in the state of Florida to learn about Florida's rich history in agriculture and the future of this industry. In supporting this project, you will breathe new life into the Florida Ag Museum, which will then not only boost the local economy, but will have a resounding effect across the state of Florida. Thank you for your time and consideration, and have a happy, healthy holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I apologize. We were having technical difficulties with the microphone, or the clock here. We now have it up and running. With the Ag Museum, we had given some money in the past, and I know they had spent that money. It'd be nice to see a before and after of what we did years ago, and then what the future plans are. I know we got some of that in our packets, but as we go forward with the legislative session, that'd be helpful for us.
Yeah, we'd be more than happy to sit down and show you everything.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jared Shoup with the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners.
Good afternoon, Representative Renner and Senator Hudson. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Jared Shoup. I'm the Chief Information Officer for the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners, as well as the county's 911 coordinator. I'm also presently the CIO for the Flagler County Sheriff's Office in the city of Flagler Beach. I'd like to discuss increasing the Florida 911 fee revenue to allow for transition to the next generation 911 services with implementation of call routing and regional mapping. I'd like to give you a little background history. The 911 fee in Florida was enacted in 1985 at the amount of 50 cents per device accessing those 911 services. In January 2015, the amount was reduced to 40 cents, a 20% reduction. The revenue from the 911 fee basically pays for all the stuff in the 911 center, the operator's salaries, some of the operator's trainings and certifications, the systems, the maintenance, call recordings, mapping, and the rest of the equipment that's there. But however, this fee was enacted in 1985. I'm sorry, the state legislature statute, when there was no cell telephones, no digital mapping, no text 911s, no routers, no switches, no gateways, no software. Antivirus denial of service attacks weren't a thing. 911 answering equipment was mechanical, not software driven. The current legislature is 36 years old, with funding priorities that were created when a telephone system was wired to a wall. We now have mobile and service-based costs that aren't easily translated to that 36-year-old statute language. Compound that with the state 911 board that is defined under Florida State Statute 365172, is appointed by the governor, but is not seen in those appointments made since 2013. There's presently only one 911 coordinator active, 4 vacant positions, that the Florida 911 Board has been trying to fill for 3 years now. Currently, Florida has one of the lowest 911 fees when compared to other southern states. Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, and Mississippi all have rates from $1 to $1.75, while 911 centers are transitioning to the next generation 911 services at the current rate of 40 cents. We are very much limiting our next generation 911 services in Florida under the current funding. So what are we looking for? We're looking to increase the 911 revenue from from 40 cents per device to $1. This will allow the Florida 911 centers in all 67 counties, the brothers and sisters that I'll serve with as the 911 coordinators, to transition to the next generation 911 services, as well as get some of the cost off of general fund, moving into those that who use the services. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mayor Catherine Robinson with the City of Bunnell.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. So we have 3 requests. These are not new requests. You've heard them before, but we'll reiterate them. And we're looking for support for the road and transportation funding for Flagler Central Commerce Parkway. That is the road that runs to the left of us and that would go all the way to US 1. There are several benefits from that road. It will free up over 1,000 acres of property for us to develop in the city of Bunnell, which would be governmental, industrial, and residential multifamily growth. It will also be an evacuation center. We'll also relieve some of the traffic off of US 1. If you come through Bunnell in the morning, it's difficult to make those turns. This funding will assist the city to offset capital outlays required for construction of this roadway. And I have to say the county and Faith, our engineer, has been wonderful to work with us regarding this project. The Sheriff Operations Center is now going to be built on that road. The library is going to be across the street, and we are actually looking at a building property across the street from the church that's right back here. Our second one is the wastewater treatment facility infrastructure upgrade and modernization. And you know that ours is upgraded and old, and by the year 2024, it will be a problem for us to be able to, we will be at capacity at that point. We're looking for $15 million to try to upgrade that and get that done as soon as possible. Certainly, that's not new news in the community at large and in the state of Florida, but it's an important component for us to be able to continue our growth and progression of the city of Bunnell. The third one is remediation and restoration of the historic Bunnell City Hall. I'm proud and pleased to tell you that we went for a state grant, the special category grant, and we were actually rated at 49 out of 77, and we asked for the $500,000 for that, and it looks like that's what they would give us if we get that. So I feel pretty good about that rating, but I know in the past with historical grants, we got rated years ago to fix this building up, and then they decreased the amount of money that was allocated to that, and even though we were in the right rating, we didn't get the funds. So that's a problem. That building has been here for a long time. It was part of the Works Progress Administration deal to get people back working in the 1930s. And because of the problems that we have right now, we are not able to utilize that building. We have it currently closed because we feel like we need to enhance the safety of some of the problems that have developed over time. The pandemic did not do us any good in our buildings in the city of Bunnell. So those are our requests. We appreciate any help that you can get, and we thank you for you coming and being a part of our system here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Next, we have Mayor David Alfin.
Gentlemen, thank you for your consideration today. I'm David Alfin, the newly minted mayor of the city of Palm Coast. The city of Palm Coast's 2022 legislative priorities focus on ensuring a high quality of life in our community that is rapidly growing. Each speaks to our highest priority, the health and safety of our citizens and visitors. Just a few years ago, we here in Flagler County were responding to the impacts from back-to-back hurricanes, which we are still dealing with today. The city of Palm Coast provides water and wastewater services that includes maintaining 34,600 pre-treatment effluent pumping PEP systems in residential neighborhoods, the largest such system in the state. After several days without power, PEP tank capacity was overwhelmed. Through emergency response, numerous pumper trucks and portable generators were dispatched at a cost of $750,000. Unfortunately, the resources could not reach all in need, and sewage backed up into homes, an event that is not acceptable. These areas are primarily outside of evacuation zones and include the populations that tend to stay during an event and endure the power outages. We are asking that PEP system areas are deemed critical infrastructure, consistent with water and wastewater facilities, and be deemed a lifeline function. During emergency response of restoring power, PEP systems should be prioritized. The remaining priorities are Old Kings Road widening and additional access to the west. Old Kings widening has been and continues to be the city's top transportation project in coordination starting in 2009 with FDOT, and excited to see construction underway for Phase 1 at the Palm Coast Parkway intersection. To see the phase come to reality, 2 other FDOT-funded projects were postponed because of funding challenges. This and the future phases improve pedestrian safety by adding 8-foot paths on both sides of Old Kings Road with street lighting, adding capacity generated by Palm Coast Parkway, a major commercial corridor, and development growth to the north. Due to the commercial traffic and the absence of turn lanes, this is also an area with numerous collisions. These segments will fill the final gap of already to note because it provides a primary north-south connection to I-95 and supports emergency evacuation and serves as a bypass during interstate shutdowns. At this last segment, waits for funding, it is in jeopardy of the costs only going up. Finally, transportation access to the west is recently a priority. The city is hiring a consultant to study these additional westbound corridors at Matanzas Woods Parkway. In the famous words of Mr. Horace Greeley, it's now time to go west, young man. We need to open up the western part of the geography. So, gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Next, we have Commissioner Jane Mealy with Flagler Beach.
And thank you both for spending your time here today. And congratulations, Representative Renner, on being designated as the next Speaker of the House. I think that's a first for Flagler County. So congratulations. Thank you both for your efforts in having Flagler Beach obtain the grant and low-interest SRF loan for our much-needed new wastewater treatment plant. This will help us protect our environment and comply with recent legislation to eliminate surface water discharges in area waterways. We hope that the state increases the number and dollar amounts of grants offered to small communities for new technological improvements that will lower energy demands while meeting a higher demand due to an increase in the number of users. Recycling. The city has had to put the onus of significantly increased costs on our citizens. The Commission hopes that the legislature will consider providing new market incentives to relieve the heavy budgetary impacts in this area. The Flagler Beach iconic pier. Flagler Beach has a tourist-dependent economy, of which our pier is a focal point. FEMA will no longer fund repairs to the present pier, which past storms and heavy weather conditions have severely damaged, and has allocated funds to replace and extend it. We hope the state will be an active partner in this complex restoration. We also hope that you will encourage FDOT, FDEP, and the Tourism Development Fund to continue supporting the beach renourishment efforts of the Army Corps and Flagler County. Cities having to spend reserves to fund necessary repairs in declared states of emergency. The state has the funds to reimburse obligated project work orders, but is extremely slow in refunding them. The documentation process is a heavy administrative burden. The city is requesting that the DEM provide funding in advance of an approved or obligated project to allow cities to obtain low-interest loans and professional staff to navigate and implement such projects. Equal access to the internet for all. It's necessary for the state to reduce restrictive regulations, allow for increased competition, and support grant mechanisms to encourage investment and expansion of broadband capacity by local governments, thereby increasing productivity and economic growth without additional financial burdens. Home rule. We also would encourage you to limit such intrusive legislation like the recent home-based business bill. Unfunded mandates. We request the legislature restrict the imposing of these and allow for the control of municipalities to be left in the hands of their citizens and local elected officials. They result in increased local program costs that burden the local economy, causing increases in property taxes and user fees. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kathy, and I always mess this up. It's Middlestat, right? Yes, sir. There we go. With the Superintendent for Flagler County Schools.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Speaker Designee Renner, Senator Hudson, elected representatives that are also in the area joining us today. I am so proud to serve as a Flagler School Superintendent. Joining me today in the chambers are School Board Vice Chair Colin Conklin. I saw Jill Rulbright walk in, and I have a member of my senior staff here this afternoon with me as well, Chief Financial Officer Patty Warmick. Trevor Tucker, our chair, was unable to attend today. I'm not sure if you're aware, but him and his wife are expecting their newborn son We are still waiting for that pitcher to come forward, so he wasn't able to attend today. That'll be Flagler County's newest student that we're going to be enrolling soon, so he'll be an overachiever. First of all, I provided your staff with a copy of our platform for the year, so hopefully you have that as well. Let me begin by thanking you first and foremost for the compression funding. As you know, that's unique for Flagler schools, and we really do appreciate that. That is about $1 million, which is about 1% of our overall operating, and that allows us for some flexible allowances as we make sure we're taking care of all the needs of Flagler schools. So really do appreciate that. It's been a huge heavy lift for both of you, looking at last year's challenges that we all faced. And so if that comes forward again this year, and if it is the will of the legislative initiative to move and change that in a different direction, we ask that you please work with us as to perhaps preserve that with a special allocation of some kind, once again, to make sure that Flagler Schools is positioned well for the future. There are some other items on our platform as well that are equally important, looking at restoring the overall dual enrollment costs as it's related to school district and what we share with our partners at the higher ed. And then increasing our safe school allocations. But if I go back to the compression funds again, if we're not able to achieve those thresholds, if we can continue to focus on that particular allocation, that would be very helpful. We're proud to work with our leaders. If there's anything that we can do in working with our constituents to help you move through policy this season, please reach out. We want to be partners in this process, and thank you for all you're doing for Flagler County.
Thank you. And we know Trevor Tucker, he texted me last night that he was not going to be able to make it, and I'm sure he's watching on TV right now as his wife is delivering.
I know he is.
He was eager to be here, so
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I have Cara Hoblick, support Florida Agricultural Museum expansion project.
Good afternoon. I'm Cara Hoblick with the Florida Agricultural Museum. First of all, I would like to thank you for your continued support. With overwhelming support from Florida's legislators and Flagler County's commissioners and citizens, the Ag Museum's Board of Trustees chose this area to be the museum's home in 1997. Past funding was received through grants from the Florida State Division of Historical Resources, which brought 11 buildings to the museum from areas across the state. Additional funding was received from the Florida legislature. Of the original $2 million request, the legislature approved $500,000 to be used for capital improvements. The projects were completed in 2016 and included paved entrance from Old Kings Road, an internal road system, a 200-car parking lot, a 7-acre pasture, and moving 2 buildings, bringing them closer to the rest of the buildings. The museum has struggled for years to provide enough income to cover daily expenses. In the past 4 years, we have been extremely frugal with our money and have been creative to use the few resources available to pull ourselves out of a huge financial hole. I am proud to say that we are now able to generate enough income to cover our daily operating expenses of over $400,000 per year. These funds are generated from several sources, which include tours to the general public, highlighting the historic buildings and rare Florida cracker livestock, a new school touring complex, a new gift shop, horse boarding, guided trail rides, private events such as weddings, special events, donations, and memberships. Today, we are at the next step of growth. With Flagler County's assistance, an exciting overall expansion project has been created. This is a multi-million-dollar project that will take years to complete and will follow the museum's mission statement, which is to educate the public about Florida agricultural's past, present, and future. To achieve this lofty goal, in addition to the Florida legislature, we will be reaching out to other entities for funding, such as public grants, ag commodity organizations, farm and ranch families, and ag-related corporations. With your support, the Florida Agricultural Museum can reach its full potential. An exciting vision for the future and new partners have poised us to begin the journey to make this facility a statewide destination and a powerful educational experience that tells the story of agriculture in Florida. I invite you to watch the full presentation on our incredible vision for the future, and please plan a visit to the museum to see for yourselves the improvements that are underway. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And I asked earlier for some information, and I found out it's right here when you presented, so thank you very much.
Fantastic, thank you.
Next is Alison Miller with the Early Learning Coalition of Flagler and Volusi.
Good afternoon. First, I'd like to start by thanking you for House Bill 419 that passed last session, and that helped us to improve the quality in VPK programs, which will be similar to that of the school readiness program. So we just want to thank you for your support on that. We have two priorities we'd like you to focus on this next session. One of those is on the eligibility for families, which is based on the federal poverty level guidelines right now. And with Florida as a national leader in economic development and job growth, we feel like this doesn't really match some of the needs of our Florida families. So for example, right now, if a family can come into services making up to 150% of the federal poverty level, which for a family of three is $32,940, not a whole lot of money. And then they can stay on services up to 200%, which would let them go up to $43,920 if they were a family of three. And so we really just ask that we have that wording changed in legislation, and to make it more focused on their income measures to better match the economic landscape and the workforce of Florida. And then the second priority that we have is the way that our reimbursement rates are set for our school readiness providers. And right now, those are set, again, it's written in legislation, they're based on biennial provider market rate surveys. And there's a couple challenges that come with that. And one of those is that the providers that are surveyed are actually most of the time the school readiness providers. And so a few of the problems that we find with that is oftentimes, especially if those providers are working in low-income areas, they're going to set their rate, their private pay rate, based on what the coalition pays, which is not 100% of the market rate already to begin with, or they may base it on what their families can afford in that community, or base it on like maybe what their neighbor charges or the competition. And what's not happening is they're not basing the rate on what the cost of quality really is. And so oftentimes those providers do not provide a high quality service to children because they're not charging enough money to be able to do that. And so what we're looking for is for the rates to be based on the cost of quality of care. So a couple things that would have to happen is, first off, we would have to do a survey to see we had to do a study to see what does the cost of quality care look like. How much does it cost to provide high quality early education? And then of course, after that would come funding. So those are the two requests that we have for this session. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Trish. Just help me out there with this last name. Is it Giacone? Here with Family Life Center. Okay, we'll come back. She may be arriving a little late. Next is Ivan Kasimi with the Stuart Marchman Act. You're recognized.
Good afternoon. I'm Alicia Vincent. I'm the Vice President of Flagler Services with SMA Healthcare. I'm grateful you're taking time today to allow SMA to discuss the important emphasis Flagler County places on mental health within the community. And we thank you for being supportive of those who struggle with addiction and mental health throughout the years. Last year, Flagler County government requested and received funding for an access center to allow expansion of mental health services to the county. The amount of the funding for this project was $245,000 annually, and it is being matched by both in-kind and cash match to maximize the impact. I want to thank you for your support with that request, and do know those dollars are in the process of being contracted now to expand those services. This funding came about as a direct result of Flagler community requesting additional services for this population. Specifically, the Flagler County's 2019 Community Health Needs Assessment ranked adult and children behavioral health as two of Flagler County's top 5 community health priorities for the years of 2020 through 2022. There are many reasons that this became a priority for the county, including an increase in suicides and overdoses in Flagler. These issues, combined with a lack of community resources, led to an outcry in the community. As we work to roll out the expanded capacity for services, we are compelled to look beyond this fiscal year and focus our sights on the horizon for the next fiscal year. While we intend to relocate some of our front-end services for those with behavioral health concerns, we also recognize the need to continue to expansion of mental health services. In order to continue operation of expanded capacity, we're requesting the state continue to fund the appropriation of $245,000 to operate the Flagler Access Center. A legislative appropriation will provide funding for operations, allowing time to seek local, state, and federal grants and/or foundation funding to support continued operation of expanded services provided at the Flagler Access Center. We thank you for your consideration, your time today, and your support of SMA throughout the years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Donna Sabatino with the AIDS Institute. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Senator Hudson, Representative Renner. Thanks for hearing me and giving me a few minutes on a topic that I don't know how many people in the room, yourselves or anybody else may know about, and it's called copay accumulators. I'm the Policy and Advocacy Director for the AIDS Institute in Florida. We also have a reach in DC. But first and foremost, I'm a nurse. And I've been a nurse in the care of people living with HIV for over 25 years. And I also represent the Florida All Copays Account Alliance, and we have members from about 10 or 12 other disease states in that alliance. I mentioned I'm a nurse specific to HIV, so I'll address this issue from that lens as a nurse and specific to patient care. But also keep in mind, we're talking about life-saving medications that impact many others: hemophilia, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis. I want to start out by saying there is no cookie-cutter approach to any of these treatments for any of these long-term illnesses. Specific to HIV, someone is on medication that will work on their specific strain of the virus, and when it's not taken correctly or people can't get those meds, it's not only a public health emergency, but it's also really bad for that person. We know that when people take their meds accurately and correctly, HIV doesn't replicate, and we know scientifically it can't be spread from person to person, and that will reduce new infections in our state and a healthier Florida. To help pay for these monthly meds, people often get assistance from family, friends, as well as from the manufacturers of the medications. Unfortunately, the PBMs and the insurance companies don't allow these funds coming in from folks to apply towards their out-of-pocket or copays. And you all have a handout that I think I shared with you. As a result, it winds up that the insurance companies and the PBMs wind up double dipping. They're getting the money from the patient, and they're getting the money from the manufacturers through these cards. What happens is when they get to the pharmacy counter, they're asked for their full copay once that card runs out of money on it, and most people walk away because they can't afford those thousands of dollars they're being asked for. The pharmaceutical manufacturer copay assistance programs include new and older meds, not just the new fancy, but also generics and others that don't have a generic equivalent. And the provider does not, just because someone walks in from a pharma company with a card, that's not going to sway the way that they prescribe their meds. It's really dependent on the relationship between the provider and the patient. Furthermore, our proposed legislation does not change the normal prior auth process or the step therapy or other cost-saving mechanisms the PBMs are already doing, and by the time the person gets there, they're already approved to get this med. I respectfully ask that you ban this practice being done by the insurance companies and the PBMs and make any form of copay assistance count towards that patient's deductible and their out-of-pocket costs, therefore not allowing the insurance companies to continue to double dip. You have the chart I mentioned, and I hope you understand this issue. I'm available for questions now and during your upcoming session and during your committee weeks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Edward Steelman with Election Integrity.
In 2020, I saw a virus take over our life and almost put me out of business. I saw people who wanted to live free demonized, while so-called protesters were hailed as heroes as they burnt down buildings and attacked people who didn't agree with them. I saw the unconstitutional push to change how votes were accepted. It was clear going into our election that our officials were changing the rules to make it easier to push votes through the mail. So going back to November 3rd, in the middle of the night, we saw all the battleground states stop counting for no apparent reason as Trump was way ahead. We saw them drive out poll watchers in Democrat-controlled cities. We saw them on camera, without oversight, running the same sets of ballots through scanners repeatedly, ballots that were pulled out from under a table. Then we saw Americans all over the country, thousands of them, start coming forward with signed affidavits of fraud they witnessed. Does everyone know that when you sign an affidavit under the penalty of perjury, that the penalty is a third-degree felony that comes with a 5-year prison sentence? Remember that as I get into what I came here to share. How do I convince you that there's a problem? Right now, Defend Florida has over 3,000 affidavits signed by ordinary people like me who didn't want to just move on when we think our most sacred right we have as citizens is being perverted. We took our voter rolls from the 2020 election and analyzed it with some of our own algorithms and identified the most likely fraudulently cast votes in our election. What we found should shock everyone in this room. We've knocked on 11,000 doors, and out of the half that answered have gotten an 80% hit rate. 2,300 registered voters who don't live at their address as of October 2020. 295 people registered at non-residential addresses. 117 dead people. Based on our data and the physical canvassing verification of it, we can confidently estimate that here in Florida, we had 700,000 to 1.2 million fraudulent votes cast in our election. I do not care who you vote for. I do not care who you vote for. I just care that your vote counts. When we do nothing about this issue, we lose our equal protection under the law, and everyone is disenfranchised. I've tried numerous times to get this message to my representatives, and I've been ignored. I'm asking you today to stop ignoring me and stop ignoring this issue. Will you meet with me and the leadership of Defend Florida so we can present with you the actual findings of what we're uncovering?
Thank you for being here. Well, certainly we'll meet with anyone. If we're not in office hours here, you have to come to Tallahassee. When we're in office hours here, you can meet with us. If you have any data whatsoever, please send it via email, please, or give it to our staff. We would love to see the data. I've also talked to our supervisor of elections here. She mentioned you tried to meet with her and y'all haven't set anything up yet. So I'd love to see all the data that you have to get it to our state elected officials. And if you could tell me, have you met with any local elected supervisor to give them the data? You can come to the mic if you want. Yeah, have you met with anybody that's a supervisor of election in the state of Florida to give them the data you have?
Personally, no. We have met with the supervisor of elections in Collier County and some other areas. We've been canvassing now for a couple of months, so we have probably 20 counties represented in the numbers that I shared, and the results are scary.
Sure, I think I speak for everybody that we take it serious, so if there is real data out there that we could verify, and if the Collier County supervisor has that data and can verify it, we haven't heard from Collier County supervisors that there's a problem yet, so we just want to make sure we get all the data right.
We will be bringing, the signed affidavits in, and we're happy to meet with the leadership so you could see the data, see the physical survey sheets, understand our process. All of our canvassers go through training. It's a nonpartisan, canvas interaction.
So that's just a sheet you gave me. Can you give me all the data, the actual physical addresses you went to, the voter rolls? Okay,
I'm happy to meet and go over everything. I think it's the most important thing going on in our state right now.
And in October or November, when you said these people voted in 2020, you've knocked on doors. Did you knock on doors 6 months later, 8 months later, or 2 days later?
We're canvassing now.
Okay, so some of these people could have moved, right?
Could have moved, yes, but we are interacting with the people who are at the house and verifying with them that the people that we're looking for, I'll knock on the door, I'll talk to you. Mr. Hudson, is Sally available to answer the questions? I see she's registered to vote at this address. And the responses we're getting is, who is Sally? I've lived here for 10 years, I've owned this house, I don't know who you're talking about, right? And it's happening everywhere, all over the state. We found a boat slip in Brevard County with 63 people registered to it.
Got it. Okay. Well, we'd love to get that data. Obviously,
I'd love to share it.
And you could send it via email, obviously, if you want. But obviously, when we're in office, we can meet. And if we're not in our office and you're coming to Tallahassee with your group, we'll gladly meet you there as well.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Matt Collins with the Florida Gun Rights. He spoke earlier at their St. John's meeting. He is for constitutional carry. Next, we have Jane Gentile-Yaud, speaking about a bill. And I assume it's a bill that's filed this year. Okay, it just has you on one, but go ahead and, you're representing yourself, I assume, right?
Yeah, as always,
Yep,
I'm
go
representing
ahead.
myself. Okay, I am a realtor, I am a broker, 41 years licensed. Let me start with the most important thing right now that affects so many of us. It looks to me like some of the legislators in Tallahassee are in cahoots or in the roofing business. The insurance companies are being allowed to cancel homeowners just based on the age of their roof. This is insanity. You cannot compare a Mercedes to a go-kart. Okay, there are homes where I live in Plantation Bay that are 5 years old. The roofs are leaking. They're lousy roofs. They don't even have one tar paper underneath. They're cheap shingles. Our home is 19 years old. I mean, the roof is 19 years old. Our tar paper is this thick. We have architectural shingles. The only fair thing to do with homeowners is for and my insurance agent is all for this, Patricia Tilton, make the insurance companies have inspectors that the homeowners have to pay for the inspections. And if the roof passes inspection, it doesn't matter if it's 100 years old. You have paper roofs, you have metal roofs. Something has got to stop because people are losing insurance. Our own insurance rate went up $1,600 in 1 year. We don't have a mortgage, so we don't need insurance. But you've got to do something about this. It's a disgrace. Okay, second thing, we have, if you're a charter county, you can recall an elected official. If you're a non-charter county, you cannot recall an elected official. This is very unfair because non-charter counties have elected officials for 4 years. I remember when I lived in Dade County, they had recall petitions and some were recalled and some. We don't have the opportunity and it's very unfair. Third thing I want to touch on, Florida Statute 718 for condominiums does allow, you have a board, the Land Sales and Condo Board, to take your grievances. Statute 720, homeowner associations are growing rapidly. To me, they're worse than mafias. I'd rather have a mafia because at least with a mafia, they have some rules. The homeowners associations have gone insane. Statute 720 mandates you go to court first. Well, the associations don't care because our association has a $2 million reserve. I don't have that kind of money. So please make 720 equal with 718 and set up a state board. I have other issues, but my time is up. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for being here. Okay, we're going to go to the ones that filled out speaker cards, and if there's others that want to speak, please fill out a card and hand it to our staff. And I'm going to try and read handwriting, which is always, usually not a good thing for me. Amy Caratuno, am I close? Oh, hey, Amy, how are you? With Flagler Humane Society.
Yeah. Yes, I'm Amy from the Humane Society, and on behalf of our supporters, I wanted to thank you both for supporting legislation earlier this year that would establish a framework for pet telemedicine in Florida. Representative Buchanan's pet telehealth bill will ensure veterinarians can use telemedicine to diagnose and to treat new patients, and we're grateful to Representative Renner for supporting the bill on the House floor, and for putting the Senate bill on the agenda in one of your industry committees. One of the expanding access to veterinary virtual care can help alleviate the strain on the veterinary health system caused by a nationwide shortage of veterinarians. It will benefit pet owners across the economic spectrum. It can reduce animal neglect, and it can reduce the number of pets that are surrendered to shelters. So many will benefit from pet telehealth: senior citizens, those with disabilities, people with transportation issues, those who live in remote areas. Telemedicine will also be great for people that have aggressive animals or fearful animals. Florida law doesn't require a physical exam before a doctor can treat a human, and the Academy of Pediatricians supports telehealth for children, so we just want the same thing for animals. Representative Buchanan's bill trusts licensed veterinarians to use technology for new patients at their discretion under the Board of Veterinary Medicine. So it's a safe way to expand pet care and keep pets healthy. So we hope that you will continue to support this and make sure Florida doesn't overregulate pet telehealth. And one other quick thing, I'm sorry. I also just wanted to mention that we appreciate your support for state legislation to prohibit the sale of dogs and cats in stores. Pet stores often source from inhumane puppy mills. In 2009, Flagler Beach, thanks Jane, Flagler Beach enacted the first ordinance in Florida and one of the first in the country aimed at ending the sale of cruelly bred dogs in stores. And since that time, at least 80 other Florida local governments have followed suit. So some may remember that 20 years ago or so, we busted a 500 dog puppy mill in Flagler County. So it would certainly be cool if our own Senator Hudson sponsored the bill that would end puppy mill sales in Florida. So thank you both.
Thank you. Next, we have Joe Rizzo, the Flagler County Education Foundation.
Thank you, Senator Hudson, Representative Renner. Congratulations on your new designee. That was quite an amazing event to watch, so we're excited about that happening to Flagler County. My name is Joe Rizzo. I'm the Executive Director of the Flagler County Education Foundation. And one of the things that y'all have supported over the years is the Take Stock in Children program. Just to let you know, in Flagler County, we have over 250 kids that have gone through the Take Stock in Children program. And it's one of those things where we can show that if we put a significant adult in a child's life, it's going to make a difference, it's going to make an impact. We have about an 85% success rate with these kids graduating college. And because of that $6 million that y'all fund through the state program, we're able to do that here. And we've gotten some state awards. We're recognized as one of the best in this programs in the state. So you can definitely talk about mentoring in Flagler County and how we're doing it, because the last 3 years have gotten recognized as the best one in the state. So thank you guys for supporting that. The other thing that y'all support that we'd like to thank you for is our Consortium of Education Foundation Matching Funds Grant. So in Flagler County, actually this week, we have been going around putting almost $70,000 into classrooms in matching grant funds, where we get about right at 40 grand from the state of Florida to put money back into classrooms from supports. So teachers write grants that align with state curriculum, and we make sure through our vetting process of our teaching and learning department that these grants really are helping perform and increase quality of education in Flagler County schools. So again, thank you for that. That's to the tune of about $5 million. So Flagler County definitely leverages that as far as we can. We have two business partners, one called the Hunter Foundation out of Ormond, and also Beaver Toyota, who actually gives us those matching dollars to be able to leverage that money. So thank you. It goes much further than what the state gives us, and that's the beauty of that program, right? The other thing is, I don't know if you remember, I'm sure you do, pre-COVID, we were able to get some workforce development dollars for the programs that we were having in our Classroom to Careers program. We were able to buy that heavy equipment simulator. We were also able to put a good portion of money into a simulation lab at Flagler Palm Coast High School for the medical field, and that medical complex that's coming with MedNext and UNF. It is absolutely amazing. Last week we were out there with Advent Health looking at how Advent can support. We've recently done a $750,000 5-year commitment from Advent Health to put services to our students. So not only are we leveraging the money that y'all gave us, but our community partnerships have gone a really long way, and they're continuing to. So by you showing faith in us, the community partners have also jumped on board. So it's working. So anytime you have a chance to continue to support workforce development, the foundation would like you to know that we are here and we will make sure it gets funded the way you want. So thank you guys very much for your time.
Thank you. Hold up one second. I said this in St. John's, so I'm going to say it in Flagler as well. The state was successful in doing apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs to have those students, those young students, to work for businesses in the area and be considered full-time under the state for workers' comp issues. The program's starting to get going here, and I'm just curious if the school district, the chambers, and yourself have reached out to the local businesses, letting them know this program's about to be up and running and take full advantage of it.
So I think that process is starting. I know Scott Sowers and I at Klein Construction, who's one of our annual partners, have had that conversation about being able to hire kids that are under the age of 21 and getting their work comp covered. So I definitely think that that is something that we're definitely going to be working towards in the future and definitely in the next couple of years, because now that we can get past this, the whole mess of the last 2 years, really there's a spot for those kids. We have over 350 kids in our construction technology programs right now. So, I mean, they're doing everything from building the tiny house. We just bought a $25,000 CNC machine for our power and energy class. I mean, we are really and truly giving these kids real life work experiences. So just all we got to do is the conversion now into getting them into the workplace. And I think we're really close. So I'm excited about it. I think we got some really good stuff coming down the road. So thank you for doing that. It's a huge thing.
No problem. Thank you. Next, we have Denise Calderwood, and she's representing Family Matters of Flagler.
Thank you all very much. Sorry I'm dressed the way I am, but I just heard about this on the radio. I've been out of sorts. I lost my husband to COVID, and so a little crazy right now, but at the same time, I'm also, you didn't start the time. I could talk forever, so I just figured I'd help you all out. Gentlemen, congratulations again, Ms. Renner. Doug Wiles was actually the first one, but then his party lost, so, hopefully, that could fix and you can be where you are. Just know the history, and I think all that's important. I'm here to talk about the homeless, and I'm here to talk about affordable housing, and I'm here to tell you about the history of where we're at. 2 years ago, I spoke to you all. We cleared behind the library. It was supposed to be a construction site. All of those people, except for one, has been placed, okay? Some of them moved back to their families. We reconnected. It cost nothing to anybody except my time and a few other volunteers who did effective, fast case management and literally broke down and found their stories and then connected them back to the people, their families, because that's the most critical thing. The housing issue, you all support Sadowski Acts, fine, the money comes to the counties. You don't hold the counties or the cities accountable to their comprehensive plans and their affordable housing component, okay? And Flagler County is specifically a problem community, and so is the city of Palm Coast. Palm Coast got rid of their last place where there was one trailer over there on the town center border, Giroux Trailer Park, okay? And then we have elected officials who make comments that if people can't afford to live here, then they shouldn't be here. And those are the same people who are working your Starbucks, working in your Target, and as a fact, Target and, Starbucks and Checkers was unable to open and stay open because they could not get the manpower, okay? So you need effective, representative housing for everybody, housing for all, okay? It's great for all the social services programs. It's great to support Stuart Marchman, but what we have is we have felons who cannot get into places, okay? Concord rents and the money that you're giving for the affordable housing developers, in Flagler County, the rents are $1,200, $1,300, and $1,400. The average Social Security check is $789. So you do the math, gentlemen. And if you don't have any other programs to support them, and then they cannot get in there. If you have a questionable criminal record, if you don't even have a good financial record, they won't let you in those apartments, okay? So what we're getting, and then the Volusia Flagler Homeless Coalition is a joke, and we got HUD money, and I will tell you that. I made 35 phone calls the past week and did not get any return phone calls from anybody. Until the last call, I said I was going to contact Congressman Waltz, because the last gentleman who helped clear behind the library waited over 3.5 months to be turned down for housing, okay? And for the past year, he has done a fantastic job, and for 18 years, he has not gotten in trouble. 2 nights ago, he was beaten and left for dead on US 1. He was jumped by other people because he was placed in a bad hotel. This is what's happening. He has a voucher for $1,100. We cannot find a place for him to go. Thank you very much.
Hold on one second. Representative Renner has.
Denise, I just want to tell you, that's one of the most heartening stories I've heard about the folks there by the library, so I appreciate your work in that, and I'm glad that ended happily for those folks, so that's really, really good news. Thank you.
Okay. Just to let you know, what I asked for is to get you all around the table and actually make the policies and the money and actually work for something, okay? Because in Flagler, it's not. And Volusia.
I got a question for you. We passed an affordable housing bill probably 3 sessions ago, and in that legislation, what we found when we did our workshops is local governments aren't talking to each other.
Correct.
To try and figure out what's best practices. Has that, if you are aware, is that implementation happening? Is local governments kind of meeting up and giving advice up the ladder to the state to give back to us? I know they haven't reported to us yet, but I didn't know. It takes
I'm
a
not
while to implement.
necessarily at the table. Heidi can probably answer that. But through the Affordable Housing Committee in Flagler County, there's a big breakdown from the people who are actually in the field and actually talking about it and the developers. Because, you know, the policies that they came up with, they're saying people in Flagler and the United Way supports that those people who are working an average, minimum wage job can only afford $750 a month, for rent. And if they don't have 3 times that coming in as income, then they can't meet anybody's background to be able to get a place to rent. So that's why it's up to government or, a lot of states are giving lots away for free. A lot of counties in Florida, are doing that as well to different agencies, like Habitat for Humanity to create specialized programs, for recovery for women, things like that. But there is nothing for convicted felons. There is no place. So it is a big, huge disconnect. And those are the ones, and then the mentally ill, those are the ones as well. Because if they have any kind of fits or outbursts, they can't be controlled in neighborhoods.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Rob Bridger, Sierra Club Volusia Flagler Group. You're recognized, sir.
Yes, good afternoon and thank you. I'm Rob Bridger. I'm representing the Sierra Club Volusia Flagler Group, and I'm here to briefly present the Florida chapter Sierra Club's overarching legislative priorities for 2022. There are 3 interrelated priorities: land conservation, water quality and quantity, and addressing climate change. So why is land conservation so important in Florida? Left in their natural state, our lands keep an immense amount of climate pollution out of the atmosphere. If we hope to meet the greenhouse gas reductions necessary to stop climate change, we need to keep the remaining undeveloped lands intact to the extent possible. In terms of water quality, the best way to protect our rivers, lakes, and bays from nutrient pollution is to protect the wetlands and the lands that are around them. Studies have shown that spending to protect forests, wetlands, and aquifer recharge areas saves money over time as the need for costly water treatment infrastructure is reduced. Florida needs to look at smart growth. Florida loses an equivalent of 10 acres of natural working lands every hour to development. With that, land conservation is an investment in the future as it steers growth away from sensitive water resources and provides recreational opportunities. Florida's $65 billion annual tourist industry is linked highly to our state's natural resources. The health of Florida's economy and water resources and quality of life will decline without mitigating, reversing climate change and protecting biodiversity through the maintenance and restoration and conservation of essential ecosystems. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative.
Quick
Renner.
question
One
for you,
question
sir.
for you, sir.
Is on the conservation front, is there a particular ARC project or conservation area in this county or in the area that your organization or you think is particularly important if we were to target one for either fee simple or non-fee simple acquisition?
Okay,
Put the farmers aside because we've got
That's-
rural and family lands issues that we want to try to fund, but as far as a parcel here,
I would like to get back to the Florida chapter in Tallahassee and get you an answer for that in terms of a particular specific priority.
Thank you.
Next, we have Kate Parker, with Florida Death with Dignity. Hey, good to see you again.
Thank you, and thank you for taking my little speech today. My name is Kate Parker, and I am a co-founder of Florida Death with Dignity. We are a grassroots organization advocating for the right of those with a terminal illness to retain their autonomy and gain access to medical aid in dying. 10 states and Washington, D.C. have legalized and successfully regulated a medical aid in dying option for their citizens. With your help, we hope to give Floridians this option as well. In 2020, former State Senator Kevin Rader proposed a bill entitled the Death with Dignity Act. That bill provided for a regulated process for competent terminally ill people with less than 6 months to live to obtain medication that will hasten the dying process. In this bill, safeguards in place to protect patient autonomy and safety include multiple doctors verifying the prognosis of the patient, competency requirements, and more. This is why, over the decades since death with dignity laws were first legalized in other states, the law has not been struck down or significantly altered, proving its safety and legal efficacy. Providing this option allows terminally ill patients to gain more control of how and when they die. By giving Floridians more control over their death, in a way, we reinforce their right to life and liberty. Polls show that a death with dignity option has broad support across political lines. However, this isn't just a legal imperative or a popular policy decision. It is also a deeply human issue. There are far too many stories of individuals whose loved ones died in painful, long drawn-out deaths because they did not have a death with dignity option. These stories happen every day. Time is of the essence to enact a compassionate, regulated Death with Dignity Act that preserves the rights of the terminally ill to choose how they will pass away. Simply put, death with dignity does not result in more people dying, it results in fewer people suffering. We request that the lawmakers here show support for a medical aid in bill when in I request that the legislators here support a medical aid in dying bill when filed. Boy, I got that one out. In our state, where cancer is the leading cause of death and the majority support having this option available, it is vital that we legalize a death with dignity option. Thank you, and forgive my stumbling.
You're fine, thank you. Thank you for
Are
seeing
there
me.
any questions?
Oh, thank you. And this is the last card I have, so if anybody else wants to speak, please fill one out and give it to our staff. Greg Blasset with the Palm Coast Flagler Regional Chamber of Commerce. I'm gonna make sure I said that one right.
You got it. We're going to make you an official member somehow. So, Speaker-designate Renner, Senator Hudson, on behalf of the Palm Coast Flagler Regional Chamber, thank you for your support of Flagler County businesses during the last legislative session. As you know, we tracked 42 different votes that impacted the business community last session, and both of you voted every single time on the side of the job creators in Flagler County. So, before I get into what's next, just last year was an unbelievable year, especially with COVID, the business rent tax. Just super thankful for both of y'all. So really appreciate your efforts last year. The Chamber looks forward to continuing to work with you and strengthen and support our local businesses during next year's session. And along those lines, I wanted to share with you in no particular order some of our legislative priorities. Infrastructure is big. It's big at the state level, but it's big here in Flagler County as well. Our population is growing, as you know, and it could increase by 70,000 net new residents by the year 2040 if we use the highest projection from the University of Florida's Bieber Institute. So the Chamber asks that you continue to support local infrastructure programs, funding transportation, water, and wastewater. And one of the things that I'm discovering here is a new second-round Flagler County resident is Flagler qualifies as a rural county, which really helps us maybe get access to additional dollars. So anything that can be done on the infrastructure front for us as we stare a huge growth wave in the face would be welcome for sure. Education and workforce development, the top concern for job creators that we speak with, and I think this is given anywhere throughout the state, is filling open jobs and finding employees to fill those jobs. So anything that you can do to help continue to strengthen workforce development programs, especially here in rural counties, is definitely welcome. On the economic development front, Flagler County's economy has still not recovered all the jobs we lost due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We did an analysis of the last unemployment report issued by DAO, and Flagler County still has 148 fewer jobs than we did in February of 2020. Sadly, that means that Flagler County ranks in the bottom third of counties recovering jobs lost to COVID. So as the economic development initiatives are being considered at the Capitol, we please ask that you support any initiatives in the economic development space that are being considered for, again, rural counties. That would be particularly helpful as we continue to navigate the road to recovery. Internet connectivity, I'll just share with you that we've been working with Flagler County government and charter communications. If COVID taught us anything, it's the importance of connecting to the internet cannot be overstated. And we look at the rural side of the county, we're very concerned about that, but we're much closer to achieving 100% in that space. And finally, tourism. It's a big deal for us, obviously, here in Flagler County. 16% of the jobs that we have are linked to the tourism industry. So Visit Florida and the sunsetting conversation are two that, the funding of Visit Florida and the sunsetting of that organization are two that we would ask for your support to keep around here in Flagler. So with that, thank you very much for your time.
That's all the speaker cards I have, so I assume no one else wanted to speak. Representative Renner, final remarks.
Well, I just appreciate everybody coming out and providing information to us, and we're still available, obviously, to chat as we go over to Tallahassee, and we'll be in communication with you about your priorities and hopefully have a good session. Chair Hudson, Senator Hudson, appreciate you chairing the meeting, and I know you have some bad news for me here at the end. You're going to share.
I'd like to thank the county and all its staff and its support for hosting us here today. Everybody coming out, giving us your priorities. We'll continue to work for you. With that being said, I nominate Representative Renner as chair.
Here comes the bad news.
Without objection, shall that motion approve? Representative Renner nominates Senator Hudson as chair. Without objection, shall that motion approve? Representative Renner moves we adjourn. Without objection, shall that motion approve? We are now adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.